ThatGreatBusinessShow.com is brought to you by De Facto Shaving Oil, the best anyone can get. Made in Ireland, sold worldwide.
Welcome to ThatGreatBusinessShow.com, Episode 7, Ireland's best business podcast, recorded on the 5th of November 2020. And I've been asked several times why we choose to date each episode. Simple, really. All the companies we feature are doing great things all of the time, and we want to make sure that you know when listening to them that you're getting the very latest update on their progress. That's us, keeping the score on Team GBS. So, joining Team GBS this week are: could childminding be a game changer in the war for talent? Work for us and we'll mind your babies. A former UN worker brings us this week's big pivot. An electric bicycle hire company that wants its investors to pick up any of their bikes they see lying around. Christine's of Crane WW caused a stir when he told a previous episode of That Great Business Show that turkeys would need to be smaller this year. We have more festive news. The spirits, yes, plural, of Christmas could be delayed until January, according to a Meath-based drinks company. And a Galway-based company has done the maths. There are 8 million people playing rugby worldwide, and they'd like them all to wear their advanced head protection at €150 a pop. Sounds like a bonus point if they convert that one.
Oh, come on.
Do you like that one? I know nothing at all about rugby, but I just throw this stuff in. Now, as always, we're here for you, Team GBS.
I stopped wearing a headgear. That's
Excuse me. We have a sponsor to keep happy.
Yeah.
As always, we're here for you, Team GBS. We're on Twitter at Team GBS1. And another week, another ton of new people subscribing. So thanks very much for that. Now, if you like what you hear, please tell your pals to subscribe so they can be sure to have that great business show on their phones anytime they want a bit of business positivity. They'll find us on every podcast platform. We repeat it on Twitter. We are the Business Sanity Clause between now and Christmas. And as usual, we start by getting some words of wisdom from my co-host, former pro rugby player, entrepreneur, investor, and a great podcaster, obviously. Oh. But on this occasion, Jamie Heaslip, I want you to don your high-performance coach cap. We normally ask Jamie for his weekly words of wisdom to start us off, but last week, we had a chat about what he had learned over the years when your team is, say, 30-0 down, how you regroup and how this applies to business, especially for people who are finding the second lockdown very tough. And a number of people asked me to expand a bit more about what you said, Jamie, because I did actually interrupt you, and they wanted to know about that huddle under the post and about the reset. You said something about you reset and you take the first couple of things easy and just start up again.
Well, so let's say we're doing a client session with someone, and one question I love to ask them at the end of the session, you lay out different actions, but one question I love to ask people is like, what's the one thing you could do in the next 24 hours that can move you closer to that overarching goal, so that you tick that off, and you'd be amazed with the momentum you can build when you kind of set your goals right in front of you that are easy to accomplish, and then harder ones and harder ones and harder ones on top of that, and how momentum builds, and that kind of aggregate of all those little wins, how that Hemingway phrase of gradually then suddenly comes to mind. But as a nice little segue of phrases, one that I thought was quite apt with everything that's going on in the US still. I love this little phrase. This came up in my book and I put it out today. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone.
He's very deep. Now, our first guest on That Great Business Show is Thomas O'Connell, who is also one great entrepreneur. He's 40, a business graduate of NUI Galway, and the man behind electric bike sharing business Moby, M-O-B-Y. A previous business saw him successfully distributing scooters worldwide, turning over about $50 million plus. The Flickr brand may mean something to some of the parents or younger entrepreneurs listening. Moby has launched in Dublin. They're looking at markets in Waterford, Cork and some UK cities. They've raised a chunk of money, and as we like on That Great Business Show, they have world ambitions. Welcome, Thomas.
Hello.
Why I read this thing in the Sunday Times last weekend about you, and I went through it and I said, that's fantastic. There are two questions that popped out of me. Why, first of all, did you go and raise some funds? I'll get to that in a second. But I'm looking at your next target markets. Nothing against Waterford, but Waterford is not a big city relative.
Doesn't have any bike sharing.
Simple as.
Yeah, very simple. It doesn't have any, there's no Galway, like in Galway and Cork and...
Well, you did mention that you're going to go to Cork as well.
Yeah, they've got a lot of hills. Simple.
And you've got the electric bikes.
Yeah.
Okay, no
very
pushy. The funding, you deliberately funded through crowdfunding.
I thought this was a great idea.
Yeah.
I loved why.
Yeah. Why? Basically, very simple. If you actually think about it, if the business is kind of... What we actually want to do is not just this on this round, we're going to do another round later on, but what we actually want is basically, the people of the city that the bike sharing is live in to own a share in the business. And that means that they're going to, be invested in it. So that means they'll use it more, care about it more. And like I said, I think in the interview, they'll pick up the bike if they see them lying on the ground.
Fingers crossed. Not thrown in the river.
I bet somebody will.
That really resonated with me. Call me a fussy old song, but I would. I actually would go to the bottom and I might even give it little polishes.
Spit shine.
I'll put your name on it as well if you invest.
So when you are funding, will the people of Waterford be allowed to get involved? Will the people of Cork be allowed to get involved?
Yeah, so the idea would be that if we move into Waterford or Cork, that actually we'd open a small round. It'd be probably at a different valuation, but you'd open a very, very small round.
He's going to rip off Waterford Moors.
And just to open it just to only people in Waterford that can actually then invest as well. And the same thing, it creates stickiness and creates a lot of brand
I
ambassadors.
think that's the main... Is part of the reason of that because you're obviously empowering a city to a certain degree and you're solving a lot of problems of that last mile distance. And I know you have some really interesting stats in terms of the average commute in a car versus how you do it in a bike. But is that community and helping local community, be it a city or whatever size, is that important to your company?
It's like Brewdog. Have you seen what they've done? You can equity for punks, they call it. So you can invest in they've done I think about 6 or 7 crowdfunds, and you can invest, and then you become you get all the different gear from them, and you can go to their AGM and things like that as well. It's kind of the same thing. It's this kind of community of people that actually care about the scheme and cycling in Dublin, and kind of trying to, people who care about the environment and that kind of thing as well. So
I have a question for you. So obviously, I don't know if people are to love you or hate you at the back of the scooter creation that you had. Obviously, it was very, very popular around the world, right? Yeah. So how did you go, how did you go from that? And what did you notice to make you go, I'm going to get into electric bikes?
It was Flickr. The Flickr scooter was the main product that we had. And a lot of people don't know that was an Irish product. And we then took that, sold it all around the world, and created a whole kind of brand, a lot of other products. But our main market was actually, it was a big hit here, but our main market ended up being America. But I was basically in the wheel goods space, and my head was in that space then as a result of that, I suppose, and I was traveling all around the world. And then a lot of my time was spent in China because a lot of the product development was done there. So there one day in China, I see the first kind of dockless bike sharing that happened in China, and you might probably have seen the pictures of the big piles of bikes in China. I was right there when that was happening. I saw it. I said, "Oh my God, that's incredible. That's really going to make a difference." I think my first reaction was, that's going to be the next Uber. That's actually going to disrupt what Uber are doing. And so it was one of those kind of light bulb moments, and I got so excited about it, I couldn't sleep for a week, and then started looking into it a little bit more and going, oh, how could I do this? Could I bring? How does it all work? Apps, IoT devices, all that kind of stuff. Just trying to figure out what I could do in the space. I just got really excited about it, and didn't do anything because I was still in Yvolution, and the big debate became then, do I go out and do this separately or do it in the company? And as a result, that ended up, I sold my shares in order to get involved in this. I was in California as well, just by accident, when Bird launched their dockless scooters, when they just did their first 20 scooters in Santa Monica. And I was just purely by coincidence there as well at the same time. And I saw everybody coming up.
Well, that's my question. Did you see a gap in the strategy that they were employing or that was being employed in China. And then when you looked at the Irish market, and you've touched on like going into the UK and broader markets, did you see like some sort of hybrid approach when it comes to their strategy, bringing the best bits?
Kind of. I just got excited about the space. Over the last 3 years, I've obviously come up with what I think is the right strategy and things like that, and I've seen what's happened to everybody. But initially, it was I just need to get started. And I was going to be one of those guys who put 500 bikes on the streets of Dublin and asked for forgiveness later. And I was
better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission.
But you did it. You did actually have to get, but you did have to get a license, didn't you?
Yeah, no, but I was going to just go for it at the time. But I was literally pressing the button, ordering 500 bikes and stuff. I better not.
Alison, would you ever call the guards?
But no, so they came around to. I never thought then. Then I kind of parted for a while and thought that I would have no opportunity in the space. And my idea moved on to, okay, I'm going to just be an operator on UCD because I saw an opportunity to develop more hardware type products and sell them to operators and sell them to cities globally. And then a license came up for Dublin. Again, it wasn't like I didn't know that was going to happen. So it came up, and obviously we went for it because we were kind of thinking about the space and things like that as well. So
now you
luckily,
you mentioned Bird in California.
Yeah.
Is there lime as well?
Lime.
Is there lime?
Oh, there's a lot, Bird, lime,
There's a lot of hate towards them because fellas were just fecking them on the side of the street and getting in the way. And
Yeah. It's a good example of you got to give Dublin credit. Actually, we've got 2 dockless bike share operators here, and you look around at cities in Europe and you look around in California, scooters thrown all over the streets. People not very happy about them, burning them, throwing them into the rivers and stuff like that. They're an eyesore. But Dublin very, very simply thought about all that and said, okay, well, we like this. We like having more bikes in the city, but actually we're going to do a very, very slow and controlled approach. And you have, very simple rule was you have to park them at a bike stand, a Sheffield stand, and that took care of all those issues. And a lot of other cities, I would say, should have done the same thing, and they didn't. They're coming around to it now, but it's pretty cool that Dublin was leading the way in that regard.
And you're only at the very initial stages.
Yeah, just starting. Yeah.
How many bikes have you got now?
There's about 90 operating now.
And the big vision is 1,000 plus, is it?
I think, we see an opportunity for about 1,500 in Dublin. In Dublin, yeah. Dublin bikes, just to put that in perspective, they've got 1,600 and they're only within the canals. So there's a big opportunity in the city, but also outside, like in Dunleary.
So give people a sense, because full disclosure, I was on one yesterday. I did just over 6K on one yesterday.
I would have thought you would have been doing the old push thing, no?
Oh, people just had a camera for you trying to like do that movement of the push thing. It was kind of
like... It's just as much exercise.
Well, this is the funny thing. So I old habits in me, I track everything, right? Like calories, heart rate, the whole shebang. And essentially I didn't train yesterday, but like my Oura ring was telling me to go for it in terms of activity-wise.
Yeah.
And the 6K on the bike, did it no problem.
Yeah. Now,
my question is, so explain to people what the benefit of using a normal bike versus an electric bike of a Moby.
In a few sentences, that basically you don't sweat. That's actually the difference.
Yeah. And by the way, for me, that's the main. I sweat so easily, and I was meeting 2 guys. I was in jeans, nice shirt. Well, that's debatable. We won't get into that, right? But I was like, I won't sweat. This is brilliant. Sorry, I'm cutting across.
You don't sweat, and it's much less effort. So it's a nice, relaxed, chilled out kind of cycle. You're not kind of struggling to go up hills or anything like that. So it's nice and relaxed, and it's not that you're not going faster. You're not actually going 40, 50 miles an hour. You're actually just getting there, kind of a little bit quicker than a regular bike, but in a much more easier and relaxed way. You're not tired after it. You're not sweaty. You're not puffed, and that's the core difference. So it's a much more pleasurable cycle.
And besides setting up in Dublin, what are you doing that others around the world now, your Limes, your Birds, etc., what are you doing different to them that you think that you can bring abroad?
Yeah, so I think actually the model of like what those guys have done. So you got to think about it. They what happened was, Uber was the big hype at the time when those guys launched, and they put some scooters on the streets in California, and the ridership was through the roof. So basically everyone got excited about it. This is the next Uber, lots of money going into it. But the difference was you're actually moving physical hardware around. So to scale to lots of cities, it's actually not the same as Uber. You're not just turning on an app and kind of there's a two-sided market. But you're actually physically moving hardware, batteries, electronics. You got to charge them. It's a much more complicated business, and I think whoever got excited about it at those times, I think the idea of scaling to hundreds of cities in 2 years is actually mental. It doesn't make any sense. It's very much, you have to deal with city councils as well. You have to get permission. There's going to have to be a local relationship and things like that as well. So I thought that was pretty silly. The way I see it playing out, there's lots of verticals in the business. So one vertical is actually your street bike hire scheme. The other vertical is, there's lots of another company that, for example, is renting bikes out to Deliveroo drivers. That's all they do, and they're now scaling that to lots of cities. Third business doing electric bike subscriptions, and they're now scaling to lots of cities. There's another company who's in the hotel vertical. They're now scaling to lots of cities.
And that's the one that you want to go after, because I read that.
Yeah. So I think it's much better to do all 5 verticals in one city, become really, really, really profitable, then look at
become the main platform.
Yeah, just make it because all those the actual street schemes by themselves they're not profitable, but in one city together it's extremely profitable. So in the future, guy in Liverpool might be doing a Deliveroo business. There might not be a street scheme, so you might go, okay, well let's try and acquire him or and then see if we can bring all 5 together and franchise it out. Or there might be a guy in Bristol who has got a street scheme business. It's not doing so well, so let's look at acquiring him and then bring the other verticals to that city as well. So
Thomas,
that's how I see it working.
I have a bit of a look back question before we move forward. So what was it called? Y-Evolution?
Yeah.
So unbelievably successful, right?
Yeah.
And kind of under the radar in terms of Irish, people knowing it was an Irish company, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievably successful, which is great, okay? And you leave it.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm presuming, you don't have to tell us, but I'm guessing you did well out of that deal, right?
Hang on a second. He only just nodded. He didn't say anything. I want to take this on the record.
Right. But what gave it, you speaking with such passion there, what gave it a graw to go again? Because this is your 3rd company, if I'm right. Is that right?
Third company, yeah.
So what's giving you the graw to keep going? Because you're speaking with a lot of passion, and then, is it satisfying when you see that you do the crowdfunding and it's done in 24 hours?
I just get excited by different things. Like what excited me about Y-Evolution at the time was that I was out of frustration. I thought the idea of kind of this range of products that was outdoors, active, the idea of having a range that got kids outdoors and active again. I love that idea. Just the problem is I get excited about things and then I have to try and see it through, and that's actually, you'd love to be able to just sit on a island in Thailand and do nothing, but you get excited, you have a vision.
You have an itch and you want to scratch it.
Yeah.
But it's a good itch.
It's a good itch, but it's sometimes you wish it wasn't there.
You have big money behind you as well as the crowdfunding.
Yeah.
So you don't really need any more money, do you? Because I heard another word that made me interested was you said extremely profitable.
No, the business. What do you mean? Sorry.
So is the business the business model? Is it profitable? And
it's not profitable yet, no, but it should be. Yeah.
And or I think you're asking. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're asking, does the company need money?
Yeah. Thanks, Jenny.
I brought in some private investors that just to have, like Brian Caulfield, for example.
Great guy.
He's invested in the business. I brought him in because this may be one of those venture capital journeys, and I've not done that before. My last businesses were organic, so I brought Brian in, and he invested as well in the current round. And then we've done the crowdfunding, and I don't think, for what we need to do and achieve in Dublin, we probably don't need to raise more, let's say, venture capital for now. But if we look to go on the path of acquiring in the future, it'd be probably another venture capital conversation at that point.
Final question: when will the people of Waterford, Cork, and wherever else see you?
I have no idea. Actually, what it depends on the level of. It depends on, like Waterford. At the moment, they want to do a pilot, same as Cork. So it's down to the councils, really. So I don't know.
Well, let's rephrase the question. What's the ambition, Thomas, in terms of ideal scenario for Moby?
Yeah, to actually, like I said, is basically to become. I think the opportunity here, I liken the space to actually car rental companies. So Hertz and Europa Car, those kind of guys. So I think everything that happened in the car industry is going to happen in the micro mobility space. You're going to have, different brands. You're going to have poor quality kind of bikes and scooters and really good quality bikes and scooters and really good brands. You're going to have extreme, on the consumer side. But basically I see the space we're in being more like a car rental scenario. So you're going to be a Hertz or a Europa car for the space. And if you're going around the world in the future, you're going to maybe have a scooter delivered to your hotel rather than rent a car at the airport. Things like that. So I see it being like that, and I see the 5 verticals being in those 5 verticals being very important for that. And then, taking that and franchising it.
Oh, sounds very exciting.
Just another Hertz.
We'll get you on it.
I'm going to be the man with the umbrella over the scooter.
They're literally down the road from you. That's where I got it. So I'll get you on. You and me go for a ride together.
Are you guys going to invest in the crowdfund?
Oh, there we go. There we go.
On, Jamie.
I'm in.
Okay. We'll see. Thomas O'Connell of Moby, M-O-B-Y. Thanks very much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
It's all go, let Cursey know on thatgreatbusinessshow.com.
That Great Business Show is sponsored by De Facto Shaving Oil, made in Mayo, sold to the world. Shaving foam cans are pressurized and therefore, when empty, are deemed hazardous waste, or as one American company calls them, zero-tolerance items. That means they mostly go to landfill or worse. De Facto is an all-natural, sustainable shaving alternative suitable for men and women, and that's why it's best anyone can get. They back us, so we ask you to back them, but only if you want the best, smoothest shave in the world. And that's me saying that because I always use it and love it. DeFactoShave.com.
I always look at you when you talk about that sponsor and just kind of judge you, but it's pretty good.
There's no point looking at you, you hairy thing.
Well, I shave once a week, and I do use it once a week.
De Facto?
I do.
Tell me more. You didn't tell me this. Do you like it?
Yeah, love it.
Love it. Jamie loves it.
That Great Business Show.
Our next guest, I will introduce you to her in a second, but we have listeners literally all over the world, and there are 2, Amanda and Martin Lundy in Saratoga in the Silicon Valley, California, who are huge supporters of Coole Swan, and they refuse all other gifts from Ireland. Coole Swan, that's spelled C-O-O-L-E, is a premium liqueur, and we'll get onto that in a second because I think it's got even more premium, if that's possible. Produced from cream produced by the cows on the Brady family farm based near Navan in County Meath. And if you haven't tasted it, it's completely different to the more famous Bailey's brand. I'm told that it's smoother, more interesting. I was told not to say lighter because it's got a nice little kick to it as well. The intricacies of the world of booze would fill a whole series of podcasts, but we haven't got time for that at the moment. What That Great Business Show would like to know about, though, is 1, how to differentiate yourself from a marketing giant like Bailey's, and 2, what are some of the huge difficulties of breaking into overseas markets are, and who better to tell us than Coole Swan founder and a massive supporter of Team GBS, Mary Sadlier.
How are you?
Mary.
Hi, guys.
Thank you for coming on to That Great Business Show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, well, thank you for being a huge supporter, both on and off the pitch. You have just told me, anyway, that you have told that you, when I say you, Coole Swan has just won the best cream liqueur award in the world.
Number 1.
In the world?
In the world.
All the way from Cavan?
All the way from Cavan, yeah.
Or Meath?
From Cavan to Kentucky. Nothing to beat it. So there's a wine and spirits periodical in the US called Wine Enthusiast. So they're very, very highly regarded, and they rate brands every year. So you get selected, and during COVID, a very nice lady contacted us by email, and we had awful trouble getting her stock because she was at home somewhere in New York and she didn't want us to know her house address. Anyway, we managed to get her 2 bottles, and they blind taste them. And they contacted us in September to say, we've great news for you. You've scored 98 out of 100 points. And with a lot of these, you don't know whether everybody else has scored 98 out of 100, or so you don't know. Now it's called, their definition of 98 out of 100 is the quality, the pinnacle of quality. That's how they describe it. So as the thing unfolded, it turned out that we're the only one of 3 brands to have gotten 98 out of 100 in the last 3 years. A French cognac and a Kentucky bourbon.
Oh, so across like all spirits that they look at?
They look at everything.
That's a massive win.
Oh, it's like I'm still even thinking, oh my God, that's huge. I mean, it's not even big; it's massive.
Which throws up so many further questions, because tell people about, first of all, The moo cows are on your family farm. They produce the milk.
That's what my daughter says.
They produce the milk that produces the cream from your farm that goes up to Cavan, is processed, comes back down again.
It is, when it goes up, actually, it's during the manufacturing process of the cream that we pasteurize the cream. So it comes in unpasteurized straight from the farm. It gets fed into a big tank up in the factory and it's melted in with white chocolate. And then we blend it with whiskey. And that's it. We add nothing else.
You can stop at the white chocolate and milk part and I'm done. Like, and then you add in my third favourite, which is whiskey. I'm like, oh.
You'll have to give it a shot tonight. And then we bottle it. And then obviously you get down to the commercials at this stage. Now we have to have markets for it and we have to have customers for it. So that's the most complicated part of it, is getting it on the shelf.
How does a farmer from Meath end up in the booze business?
She's not a farmer from Meath. She's a quality from Blackrock, County Dublin. That's what she's from.
I married a farmer from Meath.
You had sense. He pulled you out of Blackrock. You had sense.
Yeah. So how do you kind of... I wish somebody had asked me that ages ago, and there's no light bulb moment. When did you move to Meath? I married Philip in 2000 and I moved to Meath then. And
did you think in 20 years' time I'm going to have the best whiskey liqueur, cream liqueur in the world?
That is...
I didn't think that 8 weeks ago. So 20 years ago, definitely not. I genuinely still can't believe it. And this same magazine pulled together a list of the top 100 spirits in the world. It's been published in December.
Top 5.
I don't know who they are. All I know is we're in it. Bushmills would be in it. You are talking 100-year-old whiskies. We're not talking... I'll get you the list, because actually I'm still looking at ours, and there's only 3...
You're waiting for that call, are you?
Yeah.
Sorry,
we're the only Irish spirit to have ever achieved 98 out of 100.
Baileys never did it.
But that's huge when you think... okay, you think about a cream liqueur like a Baileys, right? Huge success as well. You think of Irish whiskey being synonymous with great whiskies. And you've just said there, none of them have hit these levels. So my question to you is like, how did you get to this point? So where was the starting point and the milestones along the way?
I think if you twist it around, it was like George Best. Where did it all go wrong?
And where can we get those 2 points?
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose both Philip and I came from entrepreneurial backgrounds. So we were always interested in doing something for ourselves. Farming, I won't go on about that. That's a tough one if the day they start accepting grass and muck inside in supermarkets, we are minted. Up until then, as cash flow goes, it's a very, very difficult business.
Sean O'Brien loves it.
Sean supplemented with a bit of rugby, maybe. That's what we did. Instead of the rugby, we said, here, we get a cream liqueur. So actually, we bumped into... We'd looked at loads of things. We'd looked at loads of... Nothing seriously. And then we bumped into the fabulous McKevitts, who own a business called Terra Manufacturing up in Baileybar. Brilliant father and son. Sadly, poor Patsy, the dad, died there before Christmas. But Sean is carrying on the tradition. Brilliant people. And we got chatting to them, and they have a fabulous guy up there called Seamus, who has a palate which is clear from the 98 out of 100, because it was Seamus's palate that created this brand, along with ourselves, obviously.
We're talking about a palate in your mouth, not a palate in your mouth.
That's where my head actually went.
Sorry. A palate, a taste buds. So that's what we did. And to be fair to Coole Swan, the very first day out of the blocks, it won double and triple gold at the San Francisco World Spirits Award. Again, no Irish brand had done it before Coole Swan. It just broke into the scene, and it's all down to the ingredients. We only use 3. We rely entirely on the science of cream to make it work. That's why it's a natural product, because cream has natural ability to bind to other tastes, and that's why Coole Swan works, because we don't add anything. We add 0 except white chocolate, fresh dairy cream, which we pasteurise during the process of making this, and whiskey. And there's no preservatives.
And are you doing something with the cows, like playing music to them, giving massages, like, Wagyu or Kobe beef or anything mad like this?
We had a lovely bunch of American tourists come to see us one time, and Philip turned to one of them and he said, he handed him the glass of Coole Swan. He said, "Did you just get that straight out of the cow?" And Phil said, "Yeah." He said, "We feed them whiskey there first thing in the morning." And they were like,
Really? Bought it, hook, line, and sinker, with the pot of gold as well.
Yeah. So anyway, we've abandoned, that's not part of our marketing now. I tell you. So that's where we started.
Now, come back to the win, because I think I know where this could bring you. This could open up, or should I say will open up, every market for you. Can you supply?
Oh yeah, supply is not our issue. Yeah, getting on shelf is the more complicated element.
Talk to me about the problems, because I know a little bit about trying to break into the US market, for example.
Brilliant.
How hard is it?
It's virtually impossible. There's an element of you have to earn your right to be in the market, because you are up against tremendous brands. Second of all, it's not like the world has a big gap in the middle of its shelf saying, geez, we need another brand. Lads, did anybody happen to see one outside? The world isn't short of brands. So you kind of have to fight for your right to be on the shelf. And some of it is just pure tenacity.
But the air you guys are breathing where you are now is pretty thin, and not a lot of people are around you. So why is it so difficult for a premium brand like yours to... Because your price point's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty accessible.
Yeah.
Why... what's... I'm trying to understand it, because I don't know anything about that FMCG world. Well, I know a lot about alcohol, I suppose, selling it.
I suppose
and drinking it.
There's a lot changing at the moment. So you'd have had old traditional markets, and it's like everything else. People own markets, they own the customer, and you have to fight them to get on the shelf. So if anybody knows the history of supermarket buyers, actually some of the guys, we were chatting there before I came in, and they were just saying, I remember when I used to have to chase down supermarket buyers. They're awash with offers. People are coming up with ideas every day, and everybody's got the best idea, and everybody's got the product everybody wants to eat and drink. But you also have to have a plan to get it off the shelf and to move it. So just you have to get to a point whereby you've got this share of voice and share of market. So it's a market penetration issue. Up until that point, how do you get customers to know you're there? So if you're in 25 shops, how do you get customers to know? And customers are great, but we're all customers. And if I go into a supermarket and I can't find what I'm looking for, there is an alternative, and invariably I'm busy, so I'll pick it up. So to really build a brand, you've got to get that balance between share of market and share of voice. And the share of voice, one allows you spend on the other. And that's the bit, that takes time.
Now, I don't want to end up in a high court, but if you might tell me about the story about the US. When you find a distributor in the US, sometimes they don't do exactly what they do say they're going to do.
Definitely not.
Tell me this is a really quirky piece of industry insight. Well, actually, we're here, so we can talk about the US very freely. I don't want to know. I don't want to see.
They're always listening.
Just no names, but just give me the idea of what happened.
Are you referring to something in particular?
I am. I'm referring to the fact that you had a distributor, and maybe he wasn't pushing you terribly hard.
Oh, this is in the club.
Somewhere.
We had an imaginary exclamation mark.
It's actually a very good story. I'd forgotten it. There's so many stories since. So basically, when we won the double gold or triple gold in San Francisco, you automatically think, that's it, now we're set, right? So you get a bit cocky. And the next thing is we get picked up by this fabulous distributor with a very good agency marketing leg to them. So they take out the first shipment of Coole Swan. We think we're made, we're booking the new house, we're buying the new car. Oh God. And so anyway, it wasn't moving and it wasn't selling, and we couldn't really figure out what was happening. And then one day we get a letter, because this was 10 years ago when email wasn't as prolific, from a lady who said, I had first met Coole Swan in Dublin Airport, and I was reassured this was a premium brand, and I heard the whole family story. And do you know where I am after seeing your brand? In a pole dancing club in South Illinois. And I remember thinking, what were you doing in the pole dancing club? I really wanted to write and ask her, what were you doing in the pole dancing club? But anyway,
each their own,
exactly. Now, she had pretexted by saying she was quite old. so that was kind of what drew down the interest element. But yeah, so you don't really know where the brand is and you can't control it. So I suppose that's, in answer to your question, you have to build into your market. And we came at that experience of that side of it.
So is that the disadvantage going up against the bigger brands, let's say of, a Saab Miller, a Diageo?
They're very experienced and know their stuff.
And they're in the markets already.
Yeah.
So is that a challenge for you?
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're going now, like, let's say you go into China or you go down to Australia, New Zealand, markets as far as you can go. Yeah. How do you do all that from a centralized location? Or do you spread it around?
Invariably, you go with the distributor. So here we look after the market ourselves. We do have a very good distributor down in Cork, Barry and Fitzgerald.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're very good. But by and large, we do it here, and then you have to get a distributor. And then you have to build a very good relationship with that distributor. But what you do is you put your person on the ground and you make sure it's in the right accounts. The biggest work we had to do was to keep the price at the right level. Because price, when it bounces around, all it's doing is eating into your margin. If it eats into your margin, you can't hire the staff. It's a chain reaction. So that was the single biggest investment we made, was just in getting it into retail locations where people were willing to listen to more than just a price conversation about a brand. So there's lots of retailers who market pricing. And then there's retailers who, if you want a good quality pair of shoes, you want a good handbag, or you want a stat, you have to go, you understand that it's more than just price. There's other things you factor in your decision making. So we would have had to carve out that retail, or what we would call a route to market. Our route to market, we couldn't just sell it on price. Because the other big problem is if you sell it on price, you're straight into the arms of the big guys. Because they're just discounted by another 50 cents and they've taken you out of the market. So
it's really interesting here. Like what I hear that's really strong for you is partnerships. So your partnership at the very start to create the brand, and then your partnership with distributors, and then people on the ground and with your staff, and it's and I've only met you the last 10 minutes, and it seems like you're fully capable of establishing them. How important are partnerships for you now for scaling the business, and who do you see as the real key people for you to partner with? Because otherwise you could try and do it alone, but it doesn't sound like that's the way you want to go.
No, and you kind of can't, because, well, I suppose online, that's always the option. You think, I'll set it up online, but you can't even do that on your own. You need delivery guys, you need UPS, you need FedEx, you need one of the big courier guys to work with you. So, partners. I guess when I think of partners, it's very funny, because the one who gave us the biggest break was a lovely gentleman down in Musgraves in Cork, John Cooley. And I don't know whether he did it on purpose or it was just by accident, but he never called it Coole Swan. He either called it White Swan or Cool Chicken, or chicken. To this day, I still think he did it on purpose, but fabulous guy. So he gave us our break, and now he sat on my ass, but he still gave me enough leeway to learn. So if you can partner with people like that, and people who are looking for your brand, people who need what we've got to offer. So a company like Coole Swan, particularly now with COVID and the implications it's going to have on supply lines globally, is we leave good margin, and we're not hungry for volume, if you know what I mean. Other guys leave poor margin and go mad for volume. So there are either really two business models when you're selling in FMCG.
Mary, you know that you and I could talk for maybe 2 hours, maybe 3. I need, in 30 seconds, just to justify my introduction about the issue, just in 30 seconds, the problem with the supply and Christmas. Because I did say that COVID could mean that there could be a shortage of the Christmas spirits.
Don't say it so. Do not say that as so.
Not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Have you just made a liar out of me?
No. We'll keep the lines open.
She'll
for
keep
Christmas.
It all in Ireland, you see. And
We'll make sure you have plenty of Coole Swan and plenty of others.
Before you go, right? Because I'm guessing he's gonna wrap up soon, right?
I'm going to get to a prize.
Oh,
we have a prize.
Okay, well, before the prize, right? I'm just fascinated by this, right? So, give us your 3 top tips of how you went from farming into a brand new product that you probably didn't think you were going to do, and then how you scaled that from in Ireland and then other markets.
Yeah.
3 tips.
Stay ignorant. Yeah, just whatever you do, don't look under the bonnet. Because if you do, you won't leave.
Brilliant.
Yeah, you won't leave the bedroom. Stay ignorant. The other one is build a team. And the third one is motivate. people can do anything. I'm definitely a romantic, I've discovered. I absolutely believe in the human spirit. I think the human being can do anything we set our mind to, and nobody can defeat us. But you've got to be able to be in the right frame of mind, and you've got to be able to pull around you the right team. So when COVID hit, that was one of the things, thankfully, we were able to do, was keep the team together. And like, we've opened Tesco's, we've got a new distributor in the US, we've opened 2 new states in the US, we hope to open in 20. We've a whole new, hopefully I'll be back here in January to telling you about the great things we've achieved.
Great.
So we got our 98 out of 100 score. I'm still reeling about that one. And we got this score out of the UK, the Spirits Business, another big magazine, that gave us a Masters Award. Now, they only give out a Masters every 5 or 6 years. You really have to cut the mustard to get the Masters. And we did that this year. So, but we did it as a team. And can I tell you, there were days we walked into that office and we thought, where are we going to go today? And you just say, head down. Actually, I often think of you, Jamie, you did a programme.
This could be interesting.
You did they did this thing. Big rugby fans in our house. I come and go from it, sorry. But there was a documentary one night and you were interviewed. You asked how you handled your nerves coming into a game.
Yeah.
And my girls have done their leaving cert based on this, and we regularly quote this in the office, where you said, what you do is you make sure you've prepared. And if you believe you've prepared correctly, then you just accept that and you go out and you let it happen.
Yeah, flip the switch and
go. And I thought, that's genius. And that would be my biggest advice to people. And that's what I mean about stay ignorant. In one way, look at yourself, look at what you've done, look at your team, look at who you are, be accountable to yourself, and then free fall.
How did they do in the leaving cert?
Oh, well, one is doing law in Trinity and the other is doing engineering in Trinity.
I'm claiming all that.
Yeah.
I didn't do that.
You own it.
I didn't do it.
You own it.
As I said, Jamie, I literally could talk. I have actually talked to Mary for hours on end before.
Over liqueur.
But we have to talk about a prize. We want people to subscribe to thatgreatbusinessshow.com. So very kindly, Mary has offered us a prize to encourage you to phone a friend about us. So what's the prize, Mary?
It is a 700ml bottle of Coole Swan, 3 50ml bottles in a beautiful stocking filler pack. So if you know anybody you want to give a treat to, that's perfect.
These ones?
And that's those ones.
Lovely.
And then that's beautiful for radio. And
yeah. I did that last week. Last week I was like, we were trying to measure a height and I stood up and trying to measure up here. I was like, oh no, we're recording sound here, Jamie. Well done.
But it's okay, we'll put this up onto the website and onto the Twitter and on.
I call them a buddy of mine. A buddy of mine collects. Well, now that you can get them anywhere, you used to collect minis the whole time in hotel bars.
Yeah.
So it's kind of mini size.
Yeah, mini size, 50ml. And then don't forget.
That's one of the players. He probably didn't play for it.
No, he wasn't a player. He funny enough, his rugby career didn't really take off.
And don't forget, there's handmade chocolate pots.
I have to actually shout out what the competition is.
Do shout it out.
We could be here all night. All you have to do is to get onto Twitter. I hope they're all on Twitter. Put in at Team GBS, Great Business Show, GBS1, that's us, and at Coole_Swan, that's Mary. And ask followers to subscribe to That Great Business Show and say Ireland's best podcast ever. We're just keeping it simple. That's all you have to do.
That's all you have to do. And we'll launch it through our Instagram and our Facebook, and people can join it that way as well.
And we'll get somebody famous to draw the winner or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll try to find somebody.
Mary's going to come back in January.
Yes.
And tell us how the Christmas spirits were. Mary Sadler, as usual. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Fantastic.
Great to meet you. Thanks a million.
You're listening to That Great Business Show with Conal O'Moran and Jamie Heaslip. ThatGreatBusinessShow.com.
If you have a great business story to tell about yourself or somebody else, please tell us about it by emailing producer@thatgreatbusinessshow.com. If you actually go onto the website, thatgreatbusinessshow.com, there is a little site there that you just fill it in and we'll send you the criteria that we want from our Great Business Show guest. We're committed to gender balance, so we're looking for both men and women founders or leaders. We're all islands, so the further you're away from Dublin, the more we want to hear from you. And of course, we are That Great Business Show, so you have to prove to us that your business is truly great. Producer@thatgreatbusinessshow.com will get us. Now, while I was doing some research on our next guest on That Great Business Show, Mark Ganley, I came across a 2016, that's 4 years ago, Sky TV interview in which Mark and his biomedical engineer wife Sandra were talking about their groundbreaking rugby helmet. It's claimed that the helmet can dissipate up to 75% of a tackle's impact on the head, a central issue in that game's safety. The helmet, called NPro, is aimed at all ages and classes of players, which means that the target market worldwide is 8 million players currently, and at around €150 per cap. That could translate into one hell of a business. But what struck me about the Sky interview was that Sandra or Mark mentioned that they'd been developing their product for 3 years. As I mentioned, that was 2016, and they're still at it. That's the reality of business. No such thing as an overnight success. And that's why we love gritty. I was going to say call you a grifter, but no, we won't. A gritty grafter like Mark, who joins us now on That Great Business Show. Mark Ganley, thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much, guys.
7 years.
Yeah. So
and still at it.
Still at it, yeah. So it's, as they say, the 7-year overnight success. So, yeah, like what we were tackling here, pardon the pun, was it's a very complex issue. So it's been described as the most complex issue to the most complex organ in the body. So we really had to go about it in a very scientific manner. So that involved an awful lot of R&D. We wanted to go about it to prove, that we could make a difference here, but also we were taking on major sports brands, so we had to go about it in a very, very different manner. So Sandra's background is in biomedical engineering; she has a PhD in that. Her whole career has been in medical device innovation and clinical research. Prior to starting this, I was involved in the development of hurling helmets. So we said that if we could combine our skill sets, that we might be able to make a difference here. So
were you an item at that stage?
We were, yes, yeah, and we're still.
They bonded over. Yeah.
More importantly,
come here. So you just hit on it straight away there, right? There's a lot of different people in not just the headgear space, but a lot in that, let's call it sport equipment space, right?
Yeah.
What were the critical success factors that you saw for your niche that you're in right now, and where did you see that gap that others were not either paying heed to or missing, or where? So how did you ID that opportunity?
Yeah, so I suppose if you look at any disease or illness, what you have to focus on is what are the risk factors, and also what are the experts in that sector saying. So I started doing a load of research on this. One of the main documents that I kind of went to was a consensus statement that every 4 years there's a conference held by experts in sports concussion. So in 2012, the Zurich conference was held, and they come up with a consensus statement afterwards, which defines what is the injury, how you best identify it, and then they make recommendations for how to address it. So one of the recommendations that came out of that was that impact energy needed to be reduced to the head. It's a biomechanical injury. So it's you have to look at what are the risk factors, and if you can reduce impact to the head, that will go a long way to reducing this injury. Now, you can receive concussions in a number of different ways. You could get tackled around the hip, for instance, and receive a concussion. So what we're dealing with is direct blows to the head and reducing them. Like, for instance, in the Premiership in England, they do surveys, injury surveillance reports every year. 37% of the injuries are occurring to the tackler. So obviously the tackler is not tackling with his hip or his feet, he's tackling with his shoulders. So they're predominantly impacts to the head. So we're looking at reducing those as much as possible. So in comparison to what's on the market, with traditional scrum caps, we can reduce those impacts by up to 75%. And we've worked with university research groups all over the world. We've worked at medical device test laboratories, and loads of our data has been peer-reviewed and published.
Could somebody not nip in and take your great ideas and,
Yes, so
destroy 7 years of work.
yeah, they absolutely could, and you know we're not naive in thinking that there isn't other people working on this. So we have a very large patent portfolio, a number of them already granted. So we've Ireland, France, we've a European-wide one now. Just
how important is it? Give people a sense, I suppose, of how important it is to patent ideas and innovation, particularly when it's kind of, let's say, related to medical type devices. Injuries.
Yeah, it's absolutely critical for us. You know, because we've been on a long journey with this. It required a lot of investment, so you have to protect that, protect your asset as much as possible. So we've looked at all of the rugby markets, protecting the idea there. So we've. Our US patent is about to be granted as well, so we're ticking all the boxes in terms of the major rugby markets. But we've also gone. We have regulatory burdens as well that people will need to overcome. So we've been engaging with the FDA in the United States. So we want to get medical device classification for this product in the US. We're a long way down the road on that journey. We've a long way to go still, but. That's a regulatory process that cannot be sped up. It doesn't really matter how much money or how many engineers you throw at it.
But when you mention the word patents, I know that that's spelt with dollar signs or euro signs. That's a bloody expensive business, and it doesn't always protect.
No, it doesn't. And you have to be very careful as to what you are protecting. That's why we went after specific markets, because you could spend endless amounts of money on this. We've been very specific in what we protected, and we've taken a lot of advice on it as well as to which way we think is the best way to protect the business.
And in terms of where, like rugby, collision sport, I'm going to hedge a bet here and think in this room I might have the most experience in it. Although you actually with your studies you could have more, right? But what other sports verticals do you see, not only the headgear piece, but your technology going into?
Yeah. So what we've done is we've designed this specifically for rugby, and that's our number one market, and it's still the number one that we're going after. But already the product has been used in multiple other sports. So for instance, Australian rules, we've had guys down there in the AFL wear it, we've had soccer players in the Premiership wear it, Gaelic footballers, we've had mixed martial artists that were very interested in the product. It's strange how different markets kind of appear to you, but for instance, our product is 11 millimeters thick. So what mixed martial artists would normally use in sparring would be boxing headgear, which is quite thicker, and it's also much heavier. So they liked the slim down version of it, and also the impact protection that it can give you. So
is yours a greater protection to the boxing helmet?
We haven't. It would be, but we haven't tested it against it. So I wouldn't be able to put figures on that. But yes, it would be able to take more energy than the boxing equivalent.
So can you give us like example? We know from the GPS data trackers that a lot of tackles in rugby have got the same G-force as car crashes.
Yeah.
Can you give us a sense for people?
Yeah.
The forces that you're seeing in your studies and in everyday life?
Yeah, so like a lot of it, we're talking about G-forces, which obviously you, with your analysis from being a player, you would understand. But yeah, so a lot of these collisions are severe car crashes that you're looking at. Also, another interesting stat that has come out of some studies in New Zealand is people talk about. They look at concussions and they look at people getting a massive blow. That's not what's doing an awful lot of the damage. So there's been studies done down in New Zealand using instrumented mouth guards that showed on average the players were getting 77 impacts per player per game to the head. Now these are various different levels of impact. Most of them are tiny. But if you look at a 10 or a 15-year career, that's a lot of impacts to be taking.
Who are you telling?
Yeah. Yeah. So, that can have a cumulative load over the period. So that's where an awful lot of the sports science is going now is about the cumulative load of players training.
Yeah, I mean, you see World Rugby as a general are the whole thing over the height of the tackle, because they say the person getting tackled is actually the one that's getting concussed a lot more because of the height of it. Yeah, you think it's the tackler, but it happens to the tackler as well. Yeah. There's all sorts of different reasons for that. But they're going, okay, how can we control this? Let's reduce the height, or punish it. Use a bit of a carrot and stick approach. And you're coming around from a different point of view. But what's the opportunity for you, and what's the goal for NPro?
So I think in terms of rugby, we know, we've seen all the competition. We know all the other products that are out there. This offers you the best protection available. So we want to, first of all, make an impact on the rugby market, but then expand into other sports. We see a huge opportunity here in terms of rugby as a sport in general. Like, there's an awful lot of concern out there amongst parents. There was a behaviour and attitudes survey done earlier this year, and that showed that 83% of parents are concerned about head injuries in sport. But really what you have to do is look at the wider impacts of playing team sport and the benefits of it. Like myself and Sandra, we're both, we're parents. We've seen the benefit of team sports to our kids, and what we want to see is more people playing the game. Mm-hmm. So there's an opportunity there to grow it even bigger.
But you also want to make some money. Were my figures right? 8 million times €150. That seems like a big number.
It's a very big number. Yeah, I think it's a bit like
that's some serious napkin maths right there.
Yeah, that's a bit like the Chinese glove syndrome they say about selling one glove to every person in China. But it's a very big market, and it can grow even more.
Where are you making them?
So we're manufacturing in the UK. England would be our biggest market. There's over 2 million players over there.
Playing population, isn't it?
Yeah, over 2 million players. Yeah. The US is number 2 actually now in terms of player numbers.
And 7 years on the go, plus your patents, plus your sales, plus, having to feed the kids. What's funding it?
So we've raised private investment. We started off with New Frontiers. We went through the whole Enterprise Ireland journey. So New Frontiers onto Competitive Start Fund, onto HBSU. We've raised private money as well. We're currently raising around. We've at part finalised, so we're hoping to get that wrapped up before the end of the year. So
how much are you raising?
We're raising a further 400,000 on top of what we have. So if there's any listeners out there,
and have you grown? How many employees have you?
So we have 5 in house. We've outsourced our manufacturing to the UK, as I said, and we're working with a few different marketing firms as well.
What's the ambition in terms of growing your team wise?
So we have a business plan for the next 4 years that brings us up to 21 people.
Oh, great!
Yeah.
Great. And based in Ormore?
Based in Ormore in County Galway, yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
And I hope to God it works. Plus, that you expand into all the other territories or the other headgear.
Yes.
Massive market. Huge market.
Thank you very much.
All driven by the two of you.
Yes, yeah, myself and Sandra.
The pillow talk must be very interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to say, did I wear the headgear?
I have to at times. Yeah.
That is Mark Ganley. NPro is the product.
Can I just give one thing as well, Conal? I always hear you talking about Team GBS.
Yes,
so for any Team GBS listeners out there, we're offering a 10% discount. So if you enter the code Team GBS on our website, NPro Sports, you get 10% off.
You.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. We love you.
That's brilliant. So enter Team GBS as a
discount code.
Yeah, discount code on the website.
Yeah, on the
website.
NProsports.com, and you'll get us on all social channels, same address.
That's fantastic.
Great.
One thing that you did mention, Mark, was the New Frontiers. Unfortunately, Linda Coogan told me that she didn't make do you remember Linda with a glass of wine?
Yeah.
She didn't make it. Boo hiss to the New Frontiers program.
Give me addresses there. I'm going knocking on doors, kicking doors.
But the good news is Mary Jones of Mobile Medical was contacted by AIB. AIB Marketing did hear about her, and she's doing one of those Backing Brave ads now.
Oh, brilliant.
So that is good news.
Go on,
we want to hear about. So Mark Ganley, when you get either fully funded and or breakthrough onto a market, come back to us, talk to us. We love celebrating success like that. Okay, now just remember that the Great Business Show couldn't happen without the backing of that great shaving oil company, De Facto. Based in Mayo, you can buy their world-winning shaving oil online anytime at defactoshave.com. Incredibly, one bottle lasts over a year.
It's all go, let Cursey know on thatgreatbusinessshow.com. This could be your ad on That Great Business Show.
The recipe for creating an entrepreneur is simple. Take a stint at the United Nations, a longer spell in commercial New York real estate, time spent studying for a master's degree at the LSE in London, business development for a photography business in Dublin, and a few more bits and bobs, all of which prepared our next guest, Kate Clark, to set up her own business, Oogo. O-O-G-O. Oogo is named after her toddler, Hugo, who indirectly inspired Mom to set up a worldwide platform for childminding and wider childcare. And I'm guessing that Kate was not the first to try to crack what is a massive problem for every company, large and small. The idea presumably is you offer to mind their children, they'll offer to work for you, deal, done. Well, first of all, Kate, thanks very much for joining us on the Great Business Show. But let us start with some really positive news.
Yes, we are very pleased to announce that we've signed a large corporate client this week, Europe's leading online retail and lifestyle platform. They have 34 million customers across Europe. Whoa. And we are starting next week assessing the needs of their working parents in the Dublin office to fill in any childcare gaps to make sure that everybody can work without children photobombing Zoom calls into the company.
Bula Bus, I think.
Well, that's actually.
Bula Bus.
And are you allowed to name them?
We can say that they are Zalando.
And fantastic. That is a great start.
Wow.
Yes.
And this is your first corporate customer?
First large international corporate customer.
And you heard it here first. And that's what we love. You better tell everybody listening, what is the whole idea? You're not actually a childminder. That's too simple.
Haven't babysat properly for money for a long time.
You can't call a 2-year-old for your own kids.
No, I tried. He won't pay me. So the premise is quite simple. The global conversation on childcare is really gathering momentum, and some very hard-hitting names are talking about the problem in the global press. So the Wall Street Journal has been covering it, the New York Times, Melinda Gates, even Joe Biden said it was one of the pillars of his election campaign. So what we've recognized is that this new world order means the problems associated with childcare and working from home are blending. And a lot of people are thinking differently about childcare. What might have worked before might no longer be the solution into the future. So everybody's internally busy navigating the changes and doing their jobs, and we can step in and take the pain out of finding new solutions for the way that we're all living in the new world.
So give me an example. How does it work?
So we come into a company and we assess the needs of the working parents. Now, interestingly, what we've found is that if we ask a simple question like, do you need help with childcare? 60% of parents say no, because they have some sort of childcare. But if we rephrase things and we ask parents, would you be interested in knowing about online tuition or people in your area or locality who might be home from college and out of part-time work who'd be available for activity-based childcare? 60% of parents say, yes, we'd like to know more about that. So this is about thinking outside the box and thinking about new solutions. What happened previously was people were very focused on years of experience and qualifications and certifications. Now, much more so, parents are really keen to find who's local, who's available, and who's flexible. So flexibility is the key here. And by offering an awfully large and eternally growing range of services, we're really connecting what we all know as one side of the marketplace, the parents who have the problem, with another side, all these people who are really well placed and usually around the corner who can step in and make an arrangement that fills a gap.
Are you going to put all those little stickies in the local corner shop for business?
That's how I did my first child minding job when I was saving money to go to Paris when I was studying in college, and I knew I had evenings and weekends free. So I put up a notice in the local centre and said, babysitter available for evenings and weekends, thinking I might cobble together a few jobs over the course of the summer and have a little bit more cash in my back pocket to go to Paris. But that first night I got a call from a family who said, we have a childminder, but we're opening a new pharmacy and we need someone for the evenings and weekends for all summer long. So that was an example of an informal way to match a really unique need with a service. And Oogo is the platform that sits in the middle of many people, which increasingly have very unique needs, with the other side, an increasingly growing number of people who have very flexible offerings.
So take Jamie. He is a father of a 2-year-old.
Yes.
He needs a childminder. How does it work for him?
So if you want to go to your employer, we can book you in through the company.
She's looking at me.
He's my boss.
We'll sign him up corporately, and then you can access your childcare via the corporate.
And
login.
are you saying as well, like, so I don't want to, it sounds like I'd be wrong to pigeonhole you as just childminding. But it sounds that there's all sorts of other strings and activities and services that essentially you're providing to kids that maybe are a little bit older. Is that right?
Everything.
My question actually is, where did this idea come from? Because it doesn't look like, when you look at your CV or you look at your background and experience, how did you arrive at this point to go, I'm creating this platform?
Yeah, and I think you probably have experienced some of the moments that led to this in my life as a parent. I just started out knowing that I needed childcare. So I was working for an American firm when I had my little fellow, and maternity leave was not a regular topic of conversation. So I needed childcare really quickly and quite badly. But I had this expectation, having lived in New York and London for years, that everything would be really easy to access on my phone, and I could just sit down and in one go access, start searching, filter, digest, book, and move on. 3 or 4 weeks into this, what became a monumental task, I'd paid money up front to platforms and agencies. I wasn't finding what I felt was the right fit for my situation. And I was getting increasingly frazzled and frustrated. So I thought it was me. I thought it was like, I've just reached my level of competency and this is beyond my capabilities. And I remember one evening just accepting defeat and saying, okay, I'm not too proud to ask for help. I'm just going to text a friend and say, what did you do for childcare? Because she had a little boy a year older than Hugo. So I kind of waited with anticipation for this response, because as soon as it came in, I was ready to act on it and just do whatever she had done. I assumed there was some solution out there that I hadn't thought of or wasn't aware of. And as soon as I knew about it, it would become much easier. And her text came back and it simply said, childcare is the single most stressful thing about having a child. So I knew I wasn't on my own. I knew other people were finding it difficult too. And it really baffled me. Everything else was easy in our lives. You could do whatever you wanted and book whatever you wanted from your phone. And I would have thought nothing in New York of going into the office on a Tuesday, setting up a meeting in Texas or Atlanta on the Wednesday, leaving the office that night, booking my cab, waiting for the lift, going to the airport, booking the flight on the way to the airport. So I always had this expectation that things would be easy, and then I needed childcare. And so the first booking was harder than I thought, and it just didn't get any easier. When Hugo was 3 months old, I had to go to New York or America for 10 days. So I kind of had this realization that the childcare that I needed to sort for that type of trip, I was the same mum with the same kid. My needs were slightly different in the service. The services I now needed were slightly different. But again, I had the same challenges trying to access information. And then I went on holidays to Italy. And I remember thinking that I would happily leave my little boy with any of the lovely people that we were meeting. But I couldn't say that out loud because you'd be a bad mum, because you're going to leave your kid with a stranger. But when I got back to Skerries, I remember thinking, but what would an Italian family do if they came to Skerries? They don't know about all the great babysitters that we have here. And it just started to dawn on me that there needed to be one place where all this information lived. And my background was real estate technology. So I'd lived for years centralizing data and mapping it, or understanding kind of relational databases and how to grant permission and search. So I just started to map out a platform. And I remember showing it to my boss and saying, do you think that could work? And he said, it's the most scalable thing you've ever brought to me. So
wow.
I'd always been bringing him ideas, and he'd coached me through an investment in a fitness startup in New York. And so I knew if I drew that on it was a piece of printer paper, and I knew if I had drawn it for him and he didn't rubbish it, that I should put a bit of time in.
And that was the moment where you went, what was the moment where you went, I'm jumping off this secure what I know world into this scary, unknown world. And by the way, I have a little toddler.
Yeah, I really regret that moment because it was before COVID. So last summer, I decided that it was time to scare myself. And so I had this really great job, phenomenal kind of salary. And I wouldn't say that I had great career prospects because I worked for a firm where if your name wasn't the same surname as the family, you weren't going to get to executive level. But I had a really, really good job. But I just remember saying to myself, if I don't make myself feel the fear, it's never going to happen, because you can kind of coast along in concept stage for so long. So I went to my boss and I said, right, I'm going to do it. Put me down to 1 day a week, which is life support stuff. And that was going to force me to jump off a cliff. And it did. And what I ended up doing was researching the market with much more vigor. And I realized that hotels were really receptive to this idea last year. What they were finding, what they were saying was that there was a new generation coming up the ranks that were just traveling with children nonstop. So you'd apps for how you could get your buggies in airports, what the best car seats were to take on an airplane. But a lot of hotels were playing catch up, and they were saying, we never meant to be a family hotel, but now the children are just coming with the parents all the time. So they liked the idea that somebody could come in and partner with them to take away the babysitting. And obviously they wanted the parents in the bar and not in the room ordering room service. So we were getting quite good traction with the hotel industry before COVID put pay to that. But what's happened since COVID is the global conversation around a corporate responsibility to look at the intersection of childcare and productivity has kind of enabled us to choose a different route to market. And hopefully we'll revisit the hotel industry then when it reopens.
So has it opened up in a strange way, it's opened up an opportunity that maybe you weren't as focused on. You kind of know the hotels. When the hotels come back online and we're all traveling, great.
Yep, straight back on the phone.
But actually there's this whole other problem that even if, I know, Conal, we've talked about it a lot, we've swung the whole way in terms of the extreme end of working from home. We're not going to swing back to where we were, 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or whatever it was, crazy hours, Monday to Friday. There will be a middle ground.
You only played for 80 minutes.
You were waiting for that, weren't you? But you've actually lost my train of thought now again. That's twice. But what other opportunities do you see with a product or service or platform? Sorry, that's what it is. It's a platform strategy you have here. What else can you add onto that platform?
So the original business plan was always to serve parents at home, that day-to-day childcare, the babysitter on a Friday night, because the same platform houses that information. But then the original business plan had the route to market as being hotels, first and foremost, because it was quite fertile ground. And corporations were going to come maybe year 2 or 3 because they weren't as receptive to the idea a year ago. Now that's flipped on its head. No hotel wants to talk to a babysitting app right now, and corporations are saying, please take the children out of the Zoom calls as quickly as you can. So the overall vision for Oogo has not changed. It will still grow into the go-to platform, whatever your need is. And my premise was always that no matter who you were or what kind of childcare you needed or where you were or when you needed it, you should only have one place that you go to with one profile and 2 credit cards. I always said to my boss, I want to be able to charge the company childcare at some point. And just like I charge my Airbnb to my corporate card and my Uber to my corporate card, at some point I want to be able to charge my childcare to my corporate card.
And you are now looking for 3 things. You're looking for new corporate customers. You're looking for potential babysitters, childminders, and that's a very, very wide thing as well, isn't it? Third thing, are you, looking for funding?
Not at the moment.
How lovely. How come?
We're working our corporate pipeline, and it's a good thing to be focused on. So we're okay for funding at the moment.
Happy days.
That's great.
And when you come back to us in about a year's time, how big will you be by then? Assume COVID is going. Where do you think you'll be?
12 months from now, we'd like to have, out of our corporate pipeline, a good dozen global names signed up and operational. And from there, we'll have a platform. At the moment, it's 6 pages worth of feature build out. So hopefully we'll have made a good dent in the technology. And we'll be looking to partner with travel brands when they open back up again.
Wow.
And if anybody wants to find you, they will find you at fabulously named Oogo.com. Oh, no, sorry, Oogo.me, because you told me this story. It's Oogo.me because you want to make it into a verb. Tell me just very briefly that
Oogo-me.
Oogo-me, exactly. Isn't that clever?
Ha! I like it. Yeah.
Where will you find me? Oh, just Oogo-me.
Just Oogo-me.
I love that.
Brilliant.
So we really want to be a tool for minders. And, any minder that wants to create a business, whether it's a bit of part-time pocket money doing babysitting or it's your full-time job, you should be able to use Oogo as a tool to get business.
And a real giveaway. Both of you are a mum and a dad of two-year-olds. I have much older children. I'm seeing this as a money-making operation for the kids, because that is, you are looking for those people, obviously relatively mature kids, but kids all the same.
Well, we believe there's a right fit out there for every family. So my right fit babysitter might be not the right fit for my next door neighbour and vice versa, but we welcome everybody to contact us and make an application, and we will look forward to hearing from them.
And that is Kate Clark of Oogo.me. That is it from That Great Business Show until next week. Our usual thanks to Alison O'Dwyer of Dublin South FM Podcast Studios for tweaking our voices to make that heavenly sound. And Jamie, he gets our Researcher of the Week award. Why? Because Jamie,
why?
Because you got two of our guests this week. And a special thanks to the hundreds of new subscribers who signed up on Apple Podcast and or Spotify last week. Finally, remember, if you want to have your exceptionally interesting business featured on Ireland's best business podcast, get in touch with producer at greatbusinessshow.com, thatgreatbusinessshow.com. As usual, Jamie, your final word.